Welcome to the CTA Foundation's CES interview series. My name is Steve Ewell, and I'm Executive Director of the Consumer Technology Association Foundation. And I'm really pleased to be joined today by Sassy Outwater-Wright, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, or MABVI. Welcome, Sassy. So happy to have you back at CES this year.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Well, I know we had a chance to have you at CES in person last year, and this year we're going to do it digitally and engage in that way. But I really look forward to having a conversation about all the great work that you and your team have been doing. For those that aren't familiar with MABVI, can you share a bit about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I'll start kind of briefly with a history. So MABVI was founded in 1903 by Helen Keller and a group of her cohorts, and their whole vision for the organization was to put into play self-determination at a time when self-determination was not something that was given to people with disabilities. And the organization has kept true to that mission ever since. We base our services around helping people who are going through loss of their eyesight. And we step in and assist with that adjustment process, however they feel they need that support. My kind of working mission with MABVI is there's no one right way to do loss of eyesight. It's your way, and we're just there to support you with that. So our work this year really focused on how can we serve people during COVID? How can we get into every rural community, every assisted living facility where there is a person who is going blind? And how can we step in and support them in a way that feels supportive to that individual? Not by our standard definition, but by their definition of how to adjust to blindness. And so we got really creative. We have access technology teams holding Zoom classes, one-to-one and group classes to create a sense of community and community trust. We have occupational therapists who are going in home and doing fall risks and being frontline care providers and health professionals. And then we have social workers and peer support specialists providing psychological support via technology. Using technology has been the primary modality we've used this entire year to deliver services. But we've been shocked and so excited at how many doors that has opened and how it has completely revolutionized what we do in a good way, not a bad way.
That's great to hear. And I know, this year has certainly brought its share of challenges, but it's great to hear the positives that you've been able to take out of the year, and the ways that you've been able to adapt the programming that you're able to do across the state, and continue to take things that you've done for many years in person and move them into a virtual component. And certainly when we look at the state of Massachusetts, for people in other parts of the country may not think of it as a big state, but when you go from the Cape to Boston to Springfield and Worcester and that area out to the Berkshires, you're dealing with a very kind of diverse set of communities and a wide range of different people and circumstances to work with. How have you been able to help make that transition?
I have to give full props to my team here. Starting back in March, when everything got going with COVID, unfortunately, we had 3 days to pivot the services that we offered from hand to hand, in-person services at senior centers, in assisted living facilities, at people's homes. Suddenly we had to transition all of that to virtual. And my team stepped up in ways I couldn't even have imagined. A lot of what we do now is reaching out one-to-one, inviting people into a community setting on Zoom, whether it be through support groups or our tech training classes. we still do one-to-one, but we've been astonished at how many people want the support of other people going through what they're experiencing, and how the community has come together to support itself. We're finding people who are in central Boston who are a little more experienced, coaching people and sharing support with people who are way out in the Berkshires. And we're seeing that from all over the state. On the North Shore, where we're launching our programs, and out in Western Springfield, we're seeing people step up and enthusiastically want to learn technology that will help them deal with COVID. Even as we approach the end of COVID, we're not seeing a drop off in people who want to learn more and more technologies and ways to access things, versus before you might have seen somebody be a little aversive to picking up an iPad and learning how to shop using a shopping app or ordering things online, because they were a little bit technophobic. Now we're seeing people who just completely have lost that fear and want instruction in how to do it. And oftentimes they don't want instruction from our teachers. They want the teacher there in the Zoom room, but what they really want is someone else who is blind or low vision, sharing their experience too. So there's a sense of trust that our teachers foster, but the community really has stepped forward statewide to take care of itself. And we're just there to kind of provide a supportive hand. And we're watching our age-friendly work do the same thing. We're seeing so many communities considering how to make themselves more age-friendly, more accessible, both virtually and physically. Physically was the big focus through 2019, but now in 2020, we're seeing communities really understand the power of digital accessibility and understand the need for digital accessibility, whereas before they might have kind of blown it off or shrugged it off. Now we're seeing those communities who are going through the age-friendly process and discussion really start turning to us saying, how do we do this? How do we make our community more friendly and accessible to people who are blind or who have low vision? And that is exactly what we're here to do, is help them make the community more accessible, friendly, and livable for blind people.
That is amazing. And I know Massachusetts has really been a leader in some of the age-friendly work, and leading the state towards being an age-friendly state and community across. But then the what you were able to share as far as the peer-to-peer learning, I know we've seen that from quite a few of the organizations that we work with, that you know, it's important to hear from instructors and teachers, but it also means a lot when you can meet with and build a community and build a connection with people who have experienced much the same things you have. And it just shows what's possible and what you can do when you come together and share that type of information. So that's amazing to hear kind of how you've been able to build that community across the state.
Yeah, time and time again, I hear stories of somebody who, we think of diversity and inclusion as kind of a central theme of 2020, but then to watch it in action where there are no boundaries, there's just one person experiencing a sudden onset blindness who's in her 80s, and there's another person who is in her 90s who has been blind for 30 years, and the two of them are supporting each other even though they don't quite speak the same language or they don't live quite in the same region. They're finding commonality and a trust as they navigate the fears and the challenges and the newness of disability during COVID. All of us have had to relearn how to be disabled people contending with the things that society has thrown at us during COVID. And I count myself on there. I'm blind, and I've had to do it not only as a person, but as the executive director, watching what we've had to face and how the community has come together to support itself to get through those challenges is extraordinary.
You've brought up a number of the technologies that you've been using, you know, some of the video conferencing and other products along those lines. What are some of the technologies that you found the participants in your programs are most interested in learning about and using. And has that changed this year given the pandemic?
It has. I don't know if I'd say it's changed in many ways. It's accelerated need in many ways. It's taken something that was previously considered kind of a nice add-on feature by many tech companies, and they've finally gotten the sense that this is a civil right and a human right. I've always said digital accessibility needs to be on the level of human rights. And I think that 2020 really just hit that home, and we're seeing companies finally hearing that call to action because their services were so desperately needed for people who were blind, who could not get out and get pharmacy prescriptions. We saw apps become a way that they could obtain food and medication. We saw connective apps such as FaceTime, where someone can use live camera. Our volunteers sometimes could meet using FaceTime and look at their mail for them and help them sort their mail. We saw apps, social media apps, as news was being shared quickly and things were changing daily. We had class after class where people just wanted to learn how to read the news, how to keep up with it, and how to contribute to that, what was going on in their community, and they wanted to participate. So social media was a part of that. People in their 80s really wanting to connect via social media was a theme that we saw. And then just the basics, Zoom and Teams and other apps for connection, whether it be, FaceTime with the grandkids, whether it be reaching out via Zoom to talk to an occupational therapist, to have them look around the home. I'd say the biggest one we saw, though, was magnifiers, using the basics of digital accessibility, that, how to navigate a website, how to interact with anything that is digitally built. And a lot of people with low vision, we primarily serve older adults who are losing their vision. Although we do serve from 18 all the way up. We see the vast majority of MABVI's clients are older adults. And we see them really needing access to high contrast font that can be enlarged using Zoom or magnification. And so we saw people really putting into play all of the digital accessibility best practices and standards that have been developed over the past 10 to 15 years, and really testing the limits of those as they have been currently designed, and pushing the boundaries of what they need. And that was gratifying to see.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, there's just some amazing technologies that can be used across the different use cases. Last year was your first time attending CES, I believe. And, what value do you find in attending the show? And, as an advocate, as well as a service organization, engaging with the companies and other participants?
I went in expecting to look at exhibits and kind of pick out the things that I thought would work for the people that we serve back home. And what I found was that more often than not, the people that I approached at booths were looking at me, wondering suddenly how to make their product accessible. Suddenly it was face to face with them that they had a product that needed accessibility, or that had the starting point of accessibility, or the reason why accessibility needed to be a foundational part of what they were doing rather than a cherry on top. And suddenly you could see people having that light bulb moment of, oh, that's why they tell us that we have to make something accessible, because it could walk up to my booth at any moment. And it has to go out into the world and do what it was put out there to do, which is serve the needs of each customer. And so I loved walking around and seeing those light bulb moments go on, booth after booth after booth, where people got the face-to-face value of accessibility in a tangible way. I got to see some really cool technology, but they got the power from watching a blind person come up to them of um, the power of accessibility in action. And I came away with some products that were amazingly well built and accessible. And a lot of people, reached out and said, well, how do I become accessible? And the power of that question never fails to impress me, and always elicits amazing conversations and forward momentum.
That is amazing to hear, because that is one of the reasons we make sure we bring leaders like yourself from around the disability community to the conference. As well, I do feel like our industry is paying more and more attention to accessibility and building more accessible products. Having the opportunity to learn from you and learn from the other members of our disability leaders will have just create better products that are going to work for all of us and be more accessible for all of us. So I'm excited to keep those conversations going and have people be able to learn how to make their products work well for you, but also, across the disability spectrum.
Exactly. I think, accessibility is ever evolving as we create new code, as we create new product. We need to keep changing accessibility and improving upon it. And those who are willing to test the limits of what is currently known about accessibility, I think of accessibility as a science, like gravity, like any other law of physics. It had to be discovered and tested and pushed and understood. And we're just getting to the understanding that we can take technology and turn it into this completely accessible thing. And I think we got to a new level in 2020. At first, I was afraid of regression, that we were going to go way back as things were reopening and people with disabilities were excluded from that. But then I saw the technology space and how reliant we are on it to survive. Our very lives depended on it throughout 2020 as disabled people. And to watch how technology could step up and meet those most basic of human needs: food, medication, housing, access to information. It was an incredible shift in what technology can do for people with disabilities and how companies start approaching accessibility. You're seeing it more and more and more as a foundational spotlight piece rather than as that last, okay, we have to do this because a law says it or a contract says it, or it's the good thing to do. No, it's what makes a product better for everybody, and you're finally seeing companies start to foundationalize that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it really is. It's not just a charitable act. It's a business act. It's you're going to reach more customers and going to have more happy customers by building accessibly. So I am excited to see that. And I think we're also seeing things. I mean, we could go into a whole other conversation about the opportunities around workforce and remote work that we've certainly learned about.
My passion project. Yes.
Yeah. So, that will be a whole nother conversation we'll have to have. But, being here digitally at CES 2021, we're going to be hearing about a lot of new products that are being announced. We're also going to be having a lot of conversations about, what are the products coming down the road, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, and even further down the road years. Are there particular areas of technology that you're most excited to see coming?
I mean, I'm going to be selfish and say self-driving cars. I really want that, but I think closer to home, I'm going to say that I really want to see what we do with age-friendly health equity and technology for the disabled community and for people who are entering into the disability community as older adults. There's so much intersectionality at play here between technology, older adults, and health equity that is taking shape. So I'm so excited to see, for example, how camera technology evolves, how telehealth evolves, how monitoring apps that interact with people and allow them autonomy are evolving, and how AI is being checked, how we're checking AI fairness, how we're checking those algorithms that we're creating and making sure that the filters are not building in more bias than is necessary. I'm really excited to watch how AI evolves to help older adults. And I'm absolutely excited to watch mobile technology continue to evolve and accelerate, because that is primarily becoming, at least for the blind and low vision community, how we interact with the world. So much of what we do happens through our phones now, whether it's taking a picture of a page of print and reading it aloud or on a braille display, or whether it is looking at a computer screen to be able to interpret a website that a screen reader can't interpret, or enlarge a website that wasn't built to enlarge using a Zoom application API. There's so many things that mobile technology and apps are positioned to do. LiDAR, for example, for indoor navigation. I could go on and on and on, but I think that AI and mobile technology are really going to be the keys that unlock the door to health equity for older adults who are entering the disability community, and they need that support. There's a huge number of adults coming into that space now. And now with COVID, we have so many more people coming into the disability community, and we have to be ready to meet and support that. The disability community numbers are going to jump exponentially coming up, and our technology has to jump to meet that and welcome them with availability and resources and support.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to see a lot of conversations about some of those issues. Certainly AI, certainly autonomous vehicles, certainly digital health is going to be a massive topic this year. And you know, I'll give a plug for some of the work that CTA is doing around digital health, but also health equity is a major
it's a
topic
huge
for
thing.
us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has to be.
So I think there's some good conversations that need to be had, and I'm looking forward to having those and having you involved in these conversations. And you know, that is why I think it's so important to have our leaders from our grant recipients around the country involved in CES, bringing different perspectives, bringing different backgrounds, and you know, different ages, different abilities. Really having all of us involved in these conversations is going to lead to better solutions for us all. So I just really am thrilled to have your participation at CES and throughout the year. If people want to learn more about the work that MABVI is doing, where should they go?
Our website is www.mabvi.org or mabvi.org. And all of our information is up there, including our contact information. If you have any questions or follow-up considerations, or if you want to learn more about digital accessibility or health equity in the disability community, or access technology training, any of that information is available there, or we can answer your questions if you reach out to us. We're happy to field any questions or comments or concerns that you have. Even if it's nationwide, we often partner with our sister organizations in disability services around the nation. So we can, if we're not the right organization, we can connect you to the right organization and share in the innovation process to help you out.
Well, that's great, Sassy. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your perspectives on this. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I really look forward to continuing to work with you at CES and beyond throughout the year. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity and am looking forward to enjoying another year of CES.
Absolutely. And For the audience, if you're interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, you can go to ctafoundation.tech. That's .tech. And otherwise, I just wish you a wonderful CES 2021. Thank you.